Georgia State Senator Jason Carter. He's a Democrat who's running for governor in that state. He's the grandson of President Jimmy Carter. And, Senator, let me ask you this. If you look at the map of the South, you see something that sticks out at you, which is that most of the states have rejected the federal Medicaid expansion. There's two big exceptions, Kentucky and Arkansas. You're running as a Democrat for governor in Georgia. What is your position on Medicaid expansion?
Well, I think what you see when you look at that map is that we have allowed Washington politics to infiltrate this discussion of the Affordable Care Act. I mean, I think in our state, what we've seen up until now is that the governor has decided to put that Washington politics of what he calls Obamacare ahead of our taxpayers. We're paying today as Georgians for the Medicaid expansion dollars that the federal government has, and yet we're refusing to take them. That is a terrible stewardship by our governor of our tax dollars. And my position is we have to find a way to get those tax dollars back to Georgia to improve the lives of our citizens and to inject, frankly, a giant amount of money into our economy.
Do you think that's politically feasible? I mean, is that an uphill battle in the politics of Georgia? Has Obamacare in the abstract become such a boogeyman that you can't sell the voters of Georgia on taking, tens, hundreds of millions of dollars of federal money?
Well, I think a couple things. Number one, Georgia is on the verge of being a true battleground state. I mean, we have changed dramatically over the last few years, and folks are willing to listen. The other thing is, it's not about whether you like or don't like Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act. The question is, it is the law of the land. What are we as Georgians going to do about that? As governor of Georgia, my obligation is to the taxpayers of Georgia, and what is it that would do best by them? Whatever you think about Obamacare. If you want to fight Obamacare, you can go to Washington. But in Georgia, we have an obligation to do right by our citizens.
There's about 843,000 Georgians, I should say, who'd be eligible for that expansion. The governor of your state, Governor Nathan Deal, he's been in the press recently. You guys had a little snowstorm down there, got a little national attention. Things did not go so well. Governor said basically national media jumped all over him, totally unfair, made something out of nothing. What's your response to that?
Well, I certainly don't think we made something out of nothing. I mean, we had a terrible disaster in Atlanta, and there were really two stories. One was of our citizens doing an incredible job of helping each other out, and the other was of our government having really failed those citizens. Now, the governor has apologized profusely. I'm not in a position to play the blame game now. We're going to investigate what happened, but it is clear to me that next time we have a system in place that allows us to respond to disasters, but it requires the governor to take charge from the beginning, organize and institute the disaster management plan and coordinate the communication. That didn't happen, and it hopefully will next time.
State Representative Barry Fleming, is Republican, just sponsored some legislation in your state that would shorten the early voting period quite dramatically in Georgia. What's your feeling about that bill, and what's your feeling about getting Georgians to turn out in an off-year election or a midterm election in 2014?
Well, we have seen all across the country efforts to restrict folks' access to the ballot. And I think all of us know the intent behind that is to reduce turnout. And in our view, and in my view, I will always want to be on the side that benefits from having more people participate in our democracy. That's number one. Number two, we have the ability, I think, to get folks really excited here in Georgia. As I mentioned at the beginning, we are the next battleground state. We are on the cusp of doing that. We've had a dramatic change in what our state looks like, and we have a real opportunity. And not only do we have a real opportunity in the governor's race, but in the U.S. Senate race. And I think because the opportunity is real and the stakes are so very high, not just for Georgia, but for the country, we're going to get some folks excited down here.
Why do you want to be governor? Why'd you get into politics?
Honestly, because I care about the future of our state. And I led a task force on education that showed me that we have failed our students so badly, and we are compromising our future in ways that I just can't stand. My wife is a public school teacher. My children are 7 and 5, and they go to our public schools, and we have been trading in tomorrow for today for too long. And we can't afford it as an economy, as a community, as a state, and I think it's time for a change.
State Senator Jason Carter, he is running for governor of the state of Georgia, a position his grandfather once held. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All right, and Bill O'Reilly's interview with President Obama as the host waxed poetic about how he pulled himself up by his bootstraps all on his